Hi there, Kate and Fiona Pearman, joining you for this week's live, where we finish our conversation around commitment, confidence, and discipline. And today we want to talk about how leaders and organizations can really support their team members to foster commitment and discipline. And the first place we want to really start is the importance of getting clear, defining priorities, expectations, and success measures. So many leaders think they do a good job, right, in this space. And on the other side, we hear so much feedback of where these assumptions that clarity is explicit and that everyone is on the same page, where that is not true. And so your ability to be explicit here, to have really good conversations about what is expected, supporting them to join the dots around maybe why these goals, these commitments are important, how they connect with some of the broader organizational goals, means that there is no confusion, right? When it comes potentially down the track to talking about what's working, what's not, or holding them accountable, that we can't circle back to this, "Oh, I wasn't clear, you didn't tell me that was what is expected." And so we want to remove that and make sure that everyone is on the same page when it comes to expectations and commitments.
A key way of supporting people to get clear and for all of us to expand our leadership capability is to increase self-awareness. Most of us like to believe we're self-aware. Very few of us actually meet the definition or the criteria of self-awareness. We've all got work to do in this space. And so making sure there's a common understanding of what we mean by commitment, what it takes to follow through, providing some good coaching, asking the good questions that support reflection so that if things go off the rail or if deadlines aren't met, if projects aren't delivered to the quality you want, rather than just criticizing, you're actually having good conversations about what's going on. And this speaks very much to one of our key training pieces. We use this often in our leadership programs, is really fostering what's called a growth mindset. And this is where rather than talking about things as failure or I'm a failure, we speak into that everything that goes wrong or everything that didn't turn out as we'd hoped it would is actually an opportunity for growth. This is a reframe, really, of a lot of us were taught and feel quite worried about getting things wrong or making mistakes, and can have a sort of a tendency towards perfectionism. That doesn't really work in a fast-paced modern environment. And so once we understand that by increasing our self-awareness, we will be able to stay on track, do things more confidently, really foster a sense of continuously improving what we're doing rather than having to get it perfect the first time, we'll see that discipline is more the practice of keeping going, of staying in, rather than something that is sort of arbitrary or a destination.
The next piece is really about accountability, and it's setting up systems and structures to support accountability, and then being willing to lean in and have the conversations. And this is something that organizations and leaders are not good at. We hear it from organizations we work with all the time. And so, leveraging team meetings, one-on-one meetings, encouraging peer support where they can hold each other accountable. We use that a lot in our work, and it's a very powerful process. But if we are not circling back to have the conversations, to be able to unpack where we've made success, where things aren't working, then on some level, we're not saying that we're serious about commitment, and we're often letting people off the hook, right? And so what we talk about, what we prioritize in terms of conversations, and these can be uncomfortable conversations, particularly if people, haven't delivered what they said, but they're important conversations. And so, for us all individually, being able to unpack our own relationship with accountability, both ourselves and accountability, but importantly as leaders, if there are any roadblocks for us leaning in and having these conversations on holding people accountable, then it's really important that we unpack that and I'm aware about that so we can actually take care of that for ourselves and then show up and do this. This is in service of the individual, in service of the organization. And I think sometimes we shy away from this thinking we're being kind or, generous with people, but most of the time, um, it's actually our own discomfort, which is why we're avoiding the conversation.
Which speaks directly into the need for regular feedback and recognition. We know that feedback and recognition fuels commitment. It fuels people's willingness to be disciplined, to take actions that maybe they don't want to do, that feel uncomfortable to them. So when we encourage support, when we offer them ways in constructive feedback, they will inevitably fall off track. They'll inevitably make mistakes. And so rather than them slipping into a mindset or an idea that, they've done something terrible, or this is a mistake that can't be fixed, or, that they should stop, we want them to see where the opportunity for improvement is. And so that's having good conversations. Again, that willingness to have the conversations that feel uncomfortable. We want to recognize both when they've done things well. So sometimes you'll notice someone really struggled with something and they got through it. And that encouragement of, I saw you did that. I know that was hard and you kept going. That often is all someone needs to keep on a path when they're recognized for their perseverance. And I think that positive feedback then also provides enough of a safe container that if there is some feedback that's more challenging around certain aspects, we're able to get in and have that conversation early and point them in the right direction so that they can take action to mitigate what's going on.
Yeah, that actually is a really good place to then pick up your role, especially if you're aware of lots of distractions, lots of noise, lots of expectations, to support them to reduce that, right? To reduce overwhelm, overload, to buffer them, if you will, from maybe some of the other things going on in the organization, so that they are really clear about what's expected of them, and they don't get distracted, worn down, because commitment and discipline takes energy. And so if you are running on empty, and in many cases, we get to empty by having so much on our to-do list, or so many people pulling at us, it makes it really hard to be able to stay focused. And focus is a critical part, right, of staying on track with our commitments and then being able to follow through, especially when we aren't feeling as resourced as what we might like.
And this speaks to the importance of encouraging boundaries and sustainable rhythms. We've spoken all year, really, with many, many people and a lot of women who've been talking about burnout and overwhelm, having too much on their plate, not being able to hold boundaries because of pressures in the business or perceived pressures around what they have to deliver. So the better conversations, the better you can encourage people in your team and your peers to hold boundaries so that they have the resources they need to do the work that needs to be done. What are the sustainable work rhythms that are going to work for your team? How are you ensuring people have enough breaks and time off, and they're pacing things so that the overall productivity is consistent? We see far too often, this kind of push to get stuff across on a very tight deadline and working late and all of that sort of thing. That's not sustainable, and it makes things really hard for team members to do their best and to contribute all they're capable of. So making sure people aren't overloaded, leading by example with your own good boundaries, being explicit about why you're not doing something or why you're pushing something back so that people can see it's okay to be quite definite about what they can and can't do.
We're going to leave it there. If you've enjoyed today's confidence conversation, we'd love to hear from you. And of course, we'd love for you to share it with anyone who you think might value from it. Head over to our YouTube channel if you want to check out any of the other videos in this series, along with lots of other videos and stories from clients who have been through our Acts of Confidence program. And if and when you're ready to go deeper with your relationship with core confidence, visit coreconfidence.com.au. Thanks for tuning in today. Don't forget to hit subscribe on your YouTube channel for more insights on confidence, leadership, and complex work environments. We drop new videos regularly and we'd love to share them with you.